Hey everyone, it's me, Master Walrus 9, here with a video today to talk to you about One Piece, the trading card game. I'm a huge fan of it. I came in when it started in around December of 2022 for the US. I dropped off around set 4 because of unavailability in set releases as well as no local play. But I've been recently getting back into it, and in rediscovering this passion, I want to go over some of the information I wish I kind of knew when I was starting out. So first off, a little brief history. It was released July in Japan and then December for the rest of the globe. It blew up like insane with a lot of good scenes. It's very popular, and arguably you could say it's the number 4 in the big card games. You got Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh!, but One Piece is arguably the number 4, based off of its gameplay, its strong use of the IP, and all those other factors. It's just fun. Now, in getting to it, it is getting a bit more expensive compared to some of the other Bandai card games, but it is still a lot better than Pokemon in how packs have been doing recently. Definitely better than Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm just going to be talking about some stuff. If you are interested in getting into the game, that's great. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be more than happy to help, or maybe make a follow-up video on some of those questions that you have. But it's been an extreme hit. At the time of recording, I believe set 11 of Fist of Divine Speed has just dropped. Then you have the extra boosters and then all the promos, like with the premium series, the best. You're looking at around 14 sets overall. It's planned for a global sync in 2026, if I remember correctly. So that means that right now, Japan gets the cards early, US and the rest of the world gets whatever's left at a later date. But when the global sync hits, we're going to be getting the cards at the same time. Japan and US has different play styles in a lot of considerations. Europe has a lot of different play styles. Everywhere you go, you have different playstyles. But when you look at the start of a set, you see a lot of copying over from what Japan is. So going into this, we should have a better sense of our playstyle when a set releases. And overall, I'm kind of a fan of that. So here we're going to take a look at the board. I'm going to go into details of all things considered. But here on the right, you're going to have your deck. We'll get into more details about everything, but it's a 50 card collection that is supposed to help you win. Underneath, you have your trash. Whenever cards are defeated or used, you throw them to the trash. You have your Dawn deck, where you store Dawn, and then the Dawn field, where you put Dawn to be ready to use. You have your leader right here, and you have stages. Characters go onto the field area right here, and then your life goes on the side. When you get a starter deck, you are going to get this little fold-up piece. On the opposite side is a more detailed breakdown of the rules, maybe some little details on how your deck's supposed to run. But on the other side, this one we're seeing right now, you have a template playmat, something to help you get started in your go-through with the game. A lot of professional players will have playmats, but they don't have the symbols and stuff like this, more for protecting the cards. But never feel afraid to use a playmat. If you need those rules, go ahead. I played at some locals recently, and there's a guy who's been there before more times than me, but he still used this playmat because it helps him remember all the phrasing and all the phasing. So first off, you build your deck around your leader. Your leader is going to be 1 or 2 colors. So for example, here we have blues and we have purples. Your leader is going to determine the colors of your deck. So all your cards in your deck will have to be blue, or they will have to be purple. Your leader is also going to determine your life. We'll get to more details about your life. If you take a look in the bottom right corner of a card, you'll see how much life you're permitted to start out with. Okay, if I play Hannibal, I'm going to start with 4. In the bottom left corner, you're going to see color. That's how you can verify. Sometimes there's different alt arts or whatever that makes it a bit more confusing. So it's good to be clear on that color. Your leader is going to be someone who can attack. If you played Magic the Gathering, you can kind of think of it almost like a commander. Not quite the same, but it's close enough to where you can get the idea. So not on your first turn, but on your second turn, you're going to be able to attack with your leader. We'll go into more details about how attacking works in a bit. And finally, your leader can have effects. Your leader will be the determining factor of how your game is going to be played. These two guys are both purple and blue. And so while I could run the same cards in both decks, I wouldn't want to because they deal with different mechanics. Kiana Bull deals with a lot of characters that are impelled down and adding Dawn from your deck to your field. We'll get into that in a bit. Crocodile is about attaching Dawn and playing events to draw more cards. So here you have an archetype focused leader and you have an event focused leader. The final piece to note is that your leader is going to determine how much are you going to take for damage. What is your defensive state? And we'll get more into this when we get into life, but you can see your leader's power here. An important part to note of One Piece is that there is no power and toughness. It is just power. Your power is your toughness. So if you have 5k, you're going to have to go looking at that 5k in forms of attacking, in forms of defensing, in forms of what you need to get over. Characters. Characters are the second card type. You can see right here underneath the effects and right above the name what the character card type is. So here we have the character card type. Characters are going to be a majority of your deck. If you're running a 50 card deck, expect to run around 40 characters. Your cost is going to be in the top left. This is what you're going to need to pay in order to play the characters. In the top right, you find your power, sometimes referred to as like BP or DP. All you gotta know is the power. You also have its arc or a subtype of information that really doesn't come up in the One Piece game, but can come up in certain aspects. For example, it's a strike type because frankly, Frankie tends to attack with his fists. On the very left side, you find the counter mechanic. And we'll get into that about defense, but essentially says if I don't want to use this card for offense or for an effect, I can use this card defensively and help get myself out of some tricky situations. In the center here, you have the character's effect. This is what allows the character to do other actions than just attack. Here you have the character's classification or the card classification. You have the color in the bottom left, the name, the archetypes. So this is a Straw Hat Crew. If you have any cards that reference Straw Hat Crew, this is what you're going to refer to right here. In the bottom right, you have card information. So OP05 means this was released in the 5th mainline set. It is the 7th card in this set. It is an uncommon, and this is of a second block. And we're going to talk about blocks later. But essentially, card information helps determine if you can play this card in your deck or not. One Piece is a game where you can have multiple cards of the same name, but you can't have the same code. Magic the Gathering tends to not have the same name for different types of effects, so that doesn't really occur. Same thing with Yu-Gi-Oh! But Pokemon does have the same name occurring a lot, and you're only allowed 4 Charmanders or 4 Bruxish. You can't have more than 4. Here, you can have as many Friend-Nosuke's as you possibly want, as long as you don't go more than 4 of the card number. If you had a 70 and a 71, those are considered distinct cards. And along the right, you see other information. Bandai, made in Japan. This is the English version of the set. Artists like Kisuke. copyright EO-S, EO-STA. So here is all the information you need for your card. Your characters are going to either be doing a lot of their effects or going to help you win via combat, because the leader is not enough alone to do combat. So getting familiar with all the different characters can be a lot, because there is a lot of characters. However, it definitely helps you understand the deck you're going to run with. A good rule of thumb for me is to compare it to what I call the vanilla. The vanilla is a term I use to refer to the bare bones structure of a card. Here we have a vanilla mocha from OP01, and here we have a vanilla mocha from OP11, the first set and the latest set. We see that we're looking at a free cost, 5k power, 1k counter, no effect. 4 cost, 6k power, 1k counter, no effect. So that's kind of my general rule of thumb for the vanilla. The power tends to be 2 more than the cost and have only 1k counter. And if you go forth and change up some of the mechanics, like adding an effect, giving more counter, or increasing the power, you're going to see changes in the card comparisons. So we'll take a look at the Franoske again. It's a 5k 4 cost, so instead of being +2, it's -1. But we see the counter is 1 bigger, and it also has a strong effect. So it makes a bit more sense for this card to be at that value. You will see vanillas from anywhere from 1 cost to 10 cost that follow this format. They have 1k counter, and the power is 2 more than the cost. So at a 10 drop, you're looking at a 12k 1000 counter, and at a 1 drop, you're looking at a 3k 1000 counter. So when I build and I look at cards, I always run the vanilla test in my mind just to compare. The third card type is events. Events are cards that are very useful, but not as good as the characters. In a deck of 50, you can expect around 8 to 10 events. Of course, each deck is going to want different numbers of events and different organizations of cards based off of what you're running. So some might want less, some might want more. But if you're doing simple building, we'll get to that later, expect around 10 events. They're one-time use cards. You can think of them as trainers in Pokemon, sorceries, or instant or sorceries in Magic, and spells in Yu-Gi-Oh! You can activate them during your main phase or during your counter phase. We'll talk about those phases in a bit. I know I'm saying that a lot, but it all makes sense. So your main phase or your counter phase, you can only activate it if it says right there. Your costs are found in the top left. So you have to pay the Dawn cost in order to play it. Then after you play it, you might need to have an additional cost or to activate the effect. I Want to Live has no additional cost, but you actually do have to have 30 or more cards in your trash. So you actually do have an additional cost. It's not a direct additional cost, but it's one of those where if this situation occurs, then you can do this. If you don't have those 30 or more cards in your trash, then there's no value in playing the card. Same thing with Chambres. Your leader has to have the Supernova type. So if you're not playing Supernovas, then there's no reason to run this card. And then you also have to run multicolored, because you have to play a different color than a returned character. So events can be very powerful, but you need to follow the rules of the events. Finally, the fourth card type is the stage. Stages are cards that are kind of like characters, and they stay on the field, but they cannot be targeted with attacks, and they cannot attack because they have no power. You see in the top left, they have the cost, and they have an activate effect, or maybe a pass effect or some form of effect. They go on the right by the stage card spot by your leader, and you can activate them whenever you need to and whenever it is permitted, but they will not be targeted for effects. Now, if you need to play another stage for whatever reason, you can just trash your stage and then put the new one on. So now that we talked about the 4 card types, it's time to talk about life. You win the game when you get your opponent's life to 0 and you attack them directly. So we can see that Hyunabal was a blue-purple leader mentioned earlier who has 4 life. So that means that you're going to start by drawing your hand, which is 5 cards. Then you determine if you want to mulligan or not. If you mulligan, you shuffle your hand back into your deck and then draw 5 new cards. Take the next top amount of cards from your deck and put that into your life. So I'll take 4 after I draw my hand, put 4 cards into my life. Now, when you do life, you take damage and you check. And we'll talk about damage later, but you do a check. You don't instantly interact with the card. Cards can have trigger effects or they may not have trigger effects. For example, this stage does not have a trigger effect. While these cards are examples of cards with trigger effects. And trigger means if this card was in your life and you drew it, then you have to choose. Do I play this? If I play this, activate the effect. For example, trigger effect could be play this card if it's a character. It could be activate this card's main effect, so do exactly what the card says. Or it could have an effect that's completely different from the effect of the card. For example, you may be a fool, but I still love you. It says to give your leader 1k power during this turn. While otherwise, if you have 3 or less life, don't add life from your don't add cards from your life to your hand by your own effects during this turn. 2 completely different effects, so the triggers can have those different steps. Now, if you choose not to use a trigger, be it that you don't use it or they don't have a trigger on the card, then you just put the card into your hand. Once your opponent does 4 life damage to you and then goes in for an attack and succeeds with that attack while you have 0 life, you lose the game. The other way you lose the game is that it's the start of your turn and you have no cards in your deck. So common, no cards, lose. The field. Looking back at this, the field is where you're playing your characters. You cannot have more than 5 characters on the field at any time. If you want to play a character, you have to trash one of your characters to make the room first. So here, I have 3 characters. If I wanted to play this Usopp, that's fine. I could go ahead and play. If I wanted to play another Usopp, that's perfect. I have the full field filled. But if I wanted to play one more Usopp, that would put me to 6. I cannot do that. So I'd have to pick which character I want to get rid of first. We'll say Brook, and then I'd put the Usopp on the field. Now, if you're familiar with Magic, Summoning Sickness is an effect where you can't activate or attack with creatures until your next turn. The same is true in One Piece. You cannot attack with your characters until the start of your next turn. You can activate effects because they're passive, there's no tapping, but you can't attack with them. The only exception is if they have an effect called Rush. Finally, when you play and a character, the on-play effects occur. So as Usopp has, if you have 2 or less characters with 5k power or more, play 1 character of 6k power or less and no base effect from your hand. So if I play this Usopp, I would not be able to activate his effect because I have 1, 2, 3 characters with 5k power or more. Let's say the Luffy dies and now I'm at the 2 5Ks or more. Well, I still can't activate the effect because this is only on play. It only happens when it enters the field, not when it's on the field. Dawn. Dawn is the energy system of the game. Magic has lands, Pokemon has energies, Yu-Gi-Oh has creatures and cards. One Piece has Dawn. Start of your turn, you get to take 2 cards from your Dawn deck and put them onto the Dawn area, the Dawn field. And that's as simple as that. Now, you have to remember this one little thing. The only exception is if you're the first turn and the first player. The first turn, first player will only add 1. Every other time during the Dawn phase, you're going to add 2. Now, Dawn is used for a multitude of effects. You can tap your Dawn by turning it sideways to pay for the effects and the costs of cards. You can attach Dawn to your leader or to your characters to give them 1000 power only during your turn. And at the start of the turn, during the refresh phase, you're going to untap everything and return it to the Dawn field. Then you'll go into the Dawn add phase and add 2 more Dawn. Your Dawn caps at 10, so character costs do not exceed 10. Dawn effects are different types of cards. Here I have 3 different leaders, each with a different type of Dawn effect. So you have to interact with the Dawn in a different way. It's not just leaders, characters and events and even stages can have different types of effects. So taking a look at Rebecca, you see a circle with a 1 in it. That means that you have to tap 1 Dawn in order to activate the effect. You can have Dawn costs from anywhere from 1 to 10. The Monkey D. Luffy has Dawn -2, which means that you have to do what I call a refresh. You have to take 2 Dawn from anywhere on the field. It could be tapped, it could be untapped, and it could be attached anywhere on the field and put it back into the Dawn deck. Purple kind of likes this color a lot, and we'll get into that a bit. And it creates some more interesting interactions that is important to consider when you play. If you're at 10, you do Dawn -2, you go back to 8, and then you can add the 2 Dawn again next turn. And Dawn X a number, for example, Dawn X 1 on 0, means that you have to have a Dawn attached. It does not mean you have to attach a Dawn for it to take effect. It just means you have to have one attached. The difference being that if you have to attach a Dawn, then you have to put 1 on in order to activate the effect. This says as long as 1 Dawn is attached to this card, then you can activate the effect. Deck and trash. Your deck's gonna be 50 cards. No more, no less. Your deck's also going to have to be the same colors as your leader. And then you cannot have any cards with the same number of copy or with the same number past 4 copies, as we talked about earlier for Nosuke. Your trash will go often below or above. Officially they want it below, but a lot of people like to do above. And it's face up. Like most trashes in most games, your trash is considered open information. So you can look at your trash at any time. Your opponent can look at your trash at any time. While there's no cards from my knowledge that takes effect like this, it's also important to not rearrange your trash. Some people can see that as modification of the game rules, and if they add any effects that deal with trash, like the top card of your trash, your bottom card of your trash, in the future, you're going to want to have that be ready. So now, after taking a look at the different parts of the field, we can take a look at the phases of the game. The refresh phase says to untap everything on the field. When you activate an effect that says to tap it or rest this character, when you attack with a character or leader, or if you tap Dawn or you attach Dawn, all of that gets undone. you return Dawn to the Dawn field, you untap your characters, untap your leader, untap your Dawn. Then you have to draw a card, then add 2 Dawn from your deck to the Dawn area. After you've done what I call the opening set, you move into your main phase. Your main phase is composed of attaching Dawn, playing cards, activating effects, and declaring attacks. Do this in any order you want. Do this as many times as you want. So you can attack, play a card, attack again, activate an effect, and then attack, and then play a card, and keep on going. As long as you have cards that can attack, you have the energy to play cards, and you have the necessary requirements to play the effects, you're free to do it in any order or any sequence. Once you're done with all that and you're happy with your turn, you move to the end phase. End phase just checks if there's any effects that occur at end phase, and it passes it over for your opponent's turn, in which they will untap and return all Dawn, draw a card, add 2 Dawn, and go into their main phase. Understanding the sequencing of the main phase is something we'll talk about briefly in a minute, but it's very important for understanding the high-end aspects of the game. One Piece is what I call a semi-synchronous game because of the combat. Combat begins when you declare an attack. You pick a character that's able to attack, and then you choose who you want to target with it. You can target either your opponent's leader or one of their tapped character cards. If an opponent has a card that says blocker on it, like this Suru that's right here, you are able to make it a blocker. And that means that you will redirect the attack and go from your leader to your Suru. If your opponent has any counters, so cards in their hand with plus 1k, or any events that has the counter effect and you can pay the cost, that is the time you do it. A lot of times it's going to be adding DP to your amount. An important thing to remember about counters is that it only lasts for the battle, not for the entire turn. So I attack, I tap my creature I'm attacking with, or character or leader. I'm going to target their leader. They're going to target their Suru as a blocker. So they're going to tap their Suru. I'm going to have to force myself to attack there. Then he can determine if he wants to survive with the Suru or let the Suru die. Ultimately, at the end, you calculate damage. If you meet or exceed your opponent's DP with your DP, then you beat the card. So I'm at 5k, the Suru's at 2k. I exceed it, so I beat it. If they go 3k and counter, the Suru's at 5k, I'm at 5k, I beat it. I won the combat. If they go 4k and counter or any more, they'd be at 6k. 5 into 6 means that they survived the combat. The card is still tapped, but it was not destroyed. Next, with that, if you do attack and you do get countered out to a higher amount, you still survive. If Jin Rummy attacks the Suru, but he counters out to become 4k, Jin Rummy would live even though Jin Rummy is a 3k, because you decided to not, or because you decided to attack and they countered out, you wouldn't have known that. I call it the attacker's blessing. Something like in Magic, if you pump up, you can still get your attacking creatures destroyed, or same thing with Yu-Gi-Oh! But in Bandai games, you don't. Combat is what I call asynchronous because you have, or not asynchronous, mid-synchronous. You have sync, async, and mid-sync. I call it mid-sync because you have the counters and the effects that you could play during your opponent's turn, during your attack for defense. But other than that, you have little to no interaction during your opponent's turn. An important aspect to remember is rotation. So it hasn't come into effect yet. It's going to come into effect April 2026, but rotation is going to occur where older cards are not going to be able to be used. So an estimate of every 4 sets constitutes for a block, and once a rotation occurs, cards in the oldest block will be moved out. It can be used casually, but not in official competitive tournaments. So here, you can see in the bottom right corner, you're going to have your block number and the devil fruit. So that's that callback from earlier. Here is an OP01 Monkey D. Luffy. Here is an OP05 Monkey D. Luffy. And here's an OP11 Monkey D. Luffy. All of these Monkey D. Luffy leaders have different block rotations, 1, 2, and 3. So right now they're legal, but come April, this red-green Luffy is going to be illegal, and you cannot use them for competitive or official play. Now, depending on how long they go for, you might consider legacy formats, or maybe block fixed formats, so you can only use cards from the first block, sets 1, 2, 3, and 4, and certain challenges. I'm not sure on how officially Bandai is going to embrace those events, but really it's going to be up to you and any local players on what you guys want to do. The final aspect to look at on the cards is rarity. So rarity doesn't take effect into the gameplay. However, you're playing with cards, you're going to be interested in buying some booster packs or maybe getting some singles. So it's important to understand the rarity aspect of the game as you're going through. So cards come in packs, with 12 cards being in a pack. In a box, you have 24 packs, and in a case, you're looking at about 8 boxes. So here's a little bit of breakdowns and estimates. This isn't an absolute say-so of your pull rates. This is just an estimate based off of my experience and the experience of other people. But in a pack, you can expect to have 7 commons, 3 uncommons, and 2 rares. From my experience, 1 in 4 packs will replace the rare with a super rare. From my experience, 1 in 6 packs will replace the rare with a leader, and 1 in 8 boxes, I think I meant to put packs. 1 in 8 packs will replace with a parallel, replace the rare. Now, in a box, you can expect 1 pack to have a secret rare, 1 box or 1 pack to have an Alt-Art Dawn, 1 pack to have a parallel leader, and 1 pack to have a special rare. The big hunt everyone's looking for is the manga rares. These are cards that have manga panels in the background, as you can see with the Marshall D. Teach right here. The manga rares are expected in every 1 or 2 to 3 cases. It is very uncommon to pull one, so if you get one, then props off to you. Monkey D. Luffy here is an example of a parallel leader. Oftentimes, their original art hand-drawn by Oda for this game. The manga rares are versions of the cards that have manga panels in the background, and then you have the special prints. These are cards in more modern sets that are reprints at a higher rarity of older cards. So for example, this Nami may have come out of OP08, but it's listed as OP0116 because that's the card it came from, or that's what's based off. That's the same exact effect. The art's different, the background's very different. A lot of people refer to these as kaleidoscope patterns or kaleidoscope cards, but that's the special print or the short print. So now that we talked about part 1, which was the play style and the kind of information about the cards, now we're going to take a look at the different colors and how each one of them operates. One Piece has 6 colors to look at: red, green, blue, purple, black, and yellow. These colors each have their own unique playstyle, and while if you play one color you can get estimates of how to play the other one, mastering a color is going to take a lot of experience. Let's take a look at red. Some of your mono red leaders include Newgate or Whitebeard, Zoro, Ace, Dragon, Sanji, Shanks. They focus in on the combat portion of the game, specifically DP, or the battle points right here, the damage points. It's going to be very aggressive. You're going to want to look at getting in with cards with Rush, which means you can attack the turn they come in, attaching Dawn to deal extra damage, get big guys out on the field, and hit hard and fast. At the start of the game, Newgate was one of the most popular cards, and Zoro was a very strong leader as well. If you like to be aggressive, then look at playing something in red. Green is the color of the game that focuses on the field and control. So this is a different type of green from Magic. This green wants to stun your opponent and prevent their options from occurring. Dawn Restand, or untapping your Dawn when you hit certain effects. Resting your opponents so they can't attack or they can't block. Stunning your opponents so they can't untap during their untap phase. Or resting your opponent's Dawn so they have less options to work with. Some popular leaders are the Green Uda, Odin, Ganemon, Kuro, Cody Jones, and Jewelry Bonnie. Blue is the one color that focuses on the deck and the hand. While all colors focus on the deck and the hand, this one focuses it on the game mechanics. You're going to want to refill your hand, or you're going to want to have certain board states, like having all 5 costs or higher on the field. You're going to bounce or spin, returning cards to the hand or returning cards to the bottom of the deck to shut off your opponent's options. Or cycling through the deck, going through, getting fast, getting what you need. Some popular mono blue leaders are Doflamingo, Ivankov, Nami, Hancock, Buggy, and Luffy. You see a lot of interesting aspects of play in there. For example, Nami has one of the very few alternative win conditions, where instead of losing when your deck gets to 0, you actually win when your deck gets to 0. But there's an aspect of control of the deck. Purple is the one that focuses on energy or Dawn, having a certain amount of Dawn to reach effects, or in order to Dawn refresh, returning Dawn to the Dawn deck in order to activate bonus effects. You have also a lot of Dawn ramp in purple, getting out Dawn faster to hit your big guys earlier. So some popular mono purple leaders include Luffy, King, Magellan, Iceberg, Foxy, and Shanks. Black is kind of a weird color. So black was introduced into the second set. It did not exist in the first set. And black started out as mono navy. All of your black cards were navy, but you kind of moved into other kind of cards later in. Most of the time, they started off as decreasing the enemy's cost to shut them down. But now as you move in, you see other forms of shutdown. For example, you can increase your own cost to shut down your opponent's shutdown by decreasing your cost. I know, very confusing. You got negating effects, or you got checking your trash. Cycling through a lot, playing stuff from your trash. So black is kind of the do-all for what's not been done yet. Set 3 introduced the color of yellow. Oh, almost forgot to mention. Some popular black leaders: Smoker, Lucci, Moria, Teach, Sakazuki, and Luffy. Sorry about that. Next is yellow. Yellow was introduced in set 3, and it's the mechanic that focuses on life. So you have aspect like life stacking, life refill, comparing life, or triggers. So cards that have triggers, you're trying to activate them a ton. Some popular leaders: Katakuri, Enel, Vegapunk, Calgara, Captain Kid, and Big Mom. A lot of these times in yellow, you're going to look at stacking your life to activate the triggers more and more. From what I've heard, and I'm not much of a yellow player, from what I heard, it's a very fun deck to get started with. Finally, you have multicolors. Cards are not limited to one color, but they are limited to two colors. You can't have more than two. Having two colors allows you to get multiple senses of combos going, because archetypes tend to be released in a single color based off their leader. But if that archetype gets future support in another set, then you're going to be able to play that set and get both of those colors working together to get more combos. For example, here we have Shirahoshi. She is a Merfolk or Fisherman as a leader. An OPO3, I want to say, Arlong came in as a green-yellow leader who focused on the green side of the Fisherman. But in a future set, when yellow was introduced more and more developed, you got some yellow Fishermen. So combining the green and the yellow allows you to have a more interesting sense of combo. Same thing with Marco. Whitebeard Pirates came in at set 2 as red, but when Marco dropped in OPO8, you added blue Whitebeard Pirates. So if you wanted to run a more complex Whitebeard Pirates deck, you want to run Marco. Now, multicolors often have negative effects. Because you have this opportunity for more combos, you come in with some sort of downside. Like with Shirahoshi, she does have 5 life, but she cannot attack the turn, or she can't attack. Lim has 4 life, and characters come into play rested. Kozuki Oden, you just have 4 life. So you come in with the discount of life as a negative effect. But a lot of people see this as worth it in order to run those good color combos. So now that we talked about the different colors, I want to talk quickly about some of the starting deck building tips. If you're interested in playing, you're going to want to play a deck. Ultimate suggestion, play whoever you want. Unless you're going to go pro, find some leader that you like and play them. Okay? Build a deck to the best of your capabilities, but you find someone that flows with your mechanics, or you love your leader and you just play him. For example, I really dig Buggy the Clown, so I got a Buggy the Clown starter deck here, and I enjoy it. Pre-builds are great, okay? You're not going to win Worlds or Nationals with a pre-built, but if you're starting out to learn, it's awesome to get a pre-built, because the pre-builts are really good at introducing you to the mechanics of the game. Okay? In a pre-built, you're going to want to know, how do these cards interact with each other? How can I maximize the effectiveness of my leader? How do I do stuff? And these pre-builds come in, especially this. This just released in July. They're called the reprint color builds, I guess you could say. These are all pre-existing leaders from sets rather than being original starter deck leaders. But they're built around cards in the set that worked well with the cards, with the leader, as well as giving you some more support with some original cards. They're all themed around different colors, so you can get a different aspect of the game. If you want to try out red, maybe give Shanks a try. Green, Jewelry Bonnie. Buggy for blue. Purple Luffy. Black Teach, or yellow Yamato. Yamato's technically yellow-green, but it's going to play heavier towards yellow. Getting 2 of these decks allows you to pick out the super rares and the rares and build a stronger deck overall. Is it going to be necessary for learning? No, but it might be good for getting started. Understanding the deck allows you to understand the flow, allows you to become better. Now, when you're building, it's also important to try and build onto a curve. As you're adding energy each turn, you're going to want to make the use of the energy. If you don't use it, you kind of lose that mentality. So with that in mind, when you're building, don't load your cards up with just low cost, low power effects, because you're not going to hit hard. And don't load your cards up with just high cost effects because you're gonna get knocked out early since you have no defenses. Follow the curve, have some high, have some low, have some middle. When you're building, it's also important to recognize the ban list. Certain cards become very powerful for certain aspects of the game. It can be tough to want to play if these cards go around unchecked. And so, in order to help sack some of these combos while keeping the spirit of the game and the combos going, they ban cards or restrict them. Banning cards means they cannot be used in the deck, while restricting means you're limited to the amounts you can put into the deck. Restricted to 1 means you can only put 1 in, restricted to 2 means you can only put 2, so on and so forth. Here we have OP07, number 45, Jinbei. If you need to, check the official site on what cards are banned. They also tend to give reasons as to why. For example, OP01, number 60, Don Quixote Ton Flamingo as a leader, or starter deck number 17, Double 5, Marshall D. Teach card. These cards became too oppressive and too powerful. It created an unfun game state that the Bandai company didn't want to let stand out because they knew they would be losing people who want to play with this. So some of your options: ban Doflamingo, ban Teach, or ban Jinbei. And looking at the deck and seeing what was the crucial piece, they banned Jinbei. Sometimes they say, this card's good, but it doesn't need a ban. We're going to instead restrict it. A lot of people could be not so happy with bans because it ruins their gameplay and their style and makes the deck worse. I understand that, but also bans are important. If your deck's ruined by a single ban, then you're not playing well enough because you need to figure out some way to make it better. It's up to you now to reorganize the deck. If you could find a better combo. I know that's kind of putting blame on the player rather than the company that made the cards, but I'm saying by having bans, you become a stronger player by learning how to improvise and make mechanics work. Some people have to do that not because of bans, but because of cost. And then always remember, the purpose of a game is for fun. And if the bans are to help keep the fun going because the cards are making the game unfun, then let it be so. Now, the ban list can be found on the official website. All you got to do is just search up One Piece TCG ban list, and you'll be able to bring it up and see all the cards that are banned. Ban lists do change. Some cards do become unbanned. Some leaders become banned. So yeah, you might want to run that blue and black Sakazuki leader, Kaininu, but too powerful. You can't let it happen. Try out one of the other Sakazukis. Ratios. Cards can appear up to 4 times, and the name doesn't matter. What matters is the number and the color. Taking a look at this leader right here. You have 4 of these Luffys. You can have 4 of these Luffys, 4 of these Luffys. Can't have 4 of the purple. Leader's not purple. But each one of these have different card numbers, and each one of these follow the color. However, just because you can run 4, should you run 4? You have to ask yourself, how many of this card do I put in? Here are some good questions to look at. First off, is this my win con? Does this help make me win? If no, then maybe lean away from putting in 4 copies. It's a tech option. If yes, go for 4 copies. You want to hit it more often. Does this help me get to what makes me win? Okay, so maybe this Luffy right here doesn't help me win, but it helps me search out for the card that does make me win. So if that's the case, go with that. Maybe play some more copies. Doesn't make me not lose. In order to win, you have to not lose. And so, if this card helps prevent you from losing, like this big 7k blocker, maybe considering putting in a few copies. Blockers, counter events, and 2k counters are all big in decks because it helps prevent you from not losing. Finally, if I play this, what am I losing out on? If I run 4 copies of this and 4 copies of this, I'm going to be able to miss out on some searchers. So maybe instead of running 4 copies of this, we'll run 2 of this and 2 of the searchers. Or 2 of this and 2 of the blockers for a little extra defense. Or maybe I'm losing out on a deck that is very oppressive. It kind of beats me. I have this 1 card as a tech option. Sure, I'll keep that. Okay? Understanding ratios is going to come from understanding play. Play the game more. Figure out what you do right, what you do wrong. Do I actually use the card? Or could I cut it down to less? Those are all questions you're going to play. Sequencing is big, and we're not going to talk too heavily about it. But because of the way One Piece works, you can attack, you can play cards, you can do effects in any order and multiple times. So the sequencing of stuff is important for the mystery of bluffs. Maybe attack first, then leave the Dawn open so your opponent doesn't know what you got. Maybe you force their blockers and then you play a rush and then go for a clean hit. Maybe attach Dawn first, make it seem like you have nothing in your hand and go hit big and then play something mid-range around 4. Maybe you want to erase some of your opponent's blockers first so you have a more open attack. It's going to differ deck by deck, but sequencing is going to be very important. Play the deck more, understand what you're looking at. Watch videos and read reviews and guides online towards your deck in order to best understand the sequencing. They can help you learn how to play on card, what cards to look for in your opening hand, what to play on each turn, and what's the order of things that I should do. The Don Quixote leader with the Don Flamingo deck is one that's very big on that because you're going to be stacking your deck and you're going to be drawing cards a lot and you're going to be looking for certain cards. So understanding that order is big. You want to learn. I understand my video was not the best for absolutely learning. And you know why that is? Because the best way to learn is going to be from playing the game. Best way to do anything or learn anything is going to be stop, play, look, think. So my suggestions: you want to learn, Bandai drops an app, all their card games, One Piece, Digimon, Dragon Ball, Gundam, Union Arena. Find it on the Play Store, find it on the Apple App Store, iOS, download it, play it a few times. You want to keep it to keep up your memories, go right in the head. You don't need it anymore, feel free to delete it. It's gonna take you for some tutorials to learn the game. You're gonna play with a couple of starter decks, and you're going to figure out the mechanics. You get a bit of a little free play mode. You're just gonna be able to use 2 decks, but the big thing is figuring out what the different playstyles are. How do I do each thing? What do I look for? Etc., etc. Number 2, you have a local scene around you, some LGS, some game store around you that offers One Piece. Go, check it out. Even if it's a tournament day, go in and ask. Maybe arrive a little early. People like to arrive early to practice their decks and whatnot. Say, I'm interested in getting into the scene. I know absolutely nothing about it. They say, oh my goodness, well, let's get you figuring some stuff out. A lot of these people have multiple decks. If they don't have them with them today, they'd probably be a bit happy to come in another day, or they can help guide you to a deck you might like to play. You want to play a little control, you want to play aggressive, etc., etc., the color stuff that we talked about earlier. People love the game. That's why they're there at their local events and they want to play. And they love bringing in more people, because when you love something and other people love it, you're happy about that. So go check out a local event. You don't have to play, you don't have to win, you don't even have to be good, but you can get started and people can give you advice. Maybe they have some cards that they'll give you a deal on to get started. There's a simulator. If you don't have a local event and you don't want to try out the app, there's a simulator. It's a fan-made project that's really good at allowing you to build simple decks and try them online. It's a fairly automated process. It's not that great at teaching you, but it's really good if you want to practice decks and play online against other people. The best way to learn is through play. If you're not playing, you're not going to be learning. And so, understanding play and playing is going to be the best way to learn. I'm repeating this a lot because it is crucial. It's the big thing, the big cheese, if you will. So, if you know a little bit, you tried out the app, maybe try out the simulator. I'll have it in the comments below, or not the comments, but the description below. Finally, you don't want to try out the sim, you don't want to use the app, you have no local scene, you're still interested in the game, find someone on YouTube. You search up One Piece TCG, you're gonna find thousands of people playing the game, opening cards, doing reviews, tier lists, etc., etc. You have so many resources on YouTube and online in order to learn more about the game. Watch them play, look at what's in their hands and what's the field, and ask yourself, what would I do if I'm in this situation? What would I play? If you find yourself making the same moves, then that means you're learning. So you're playing without playing. You might be going too fast in a video if you're brand new. Rewatch it. Find something simpler. Maybe there's high-tech combos. Okay, go down to a lower-end combo set. I'm gonna link YouTuber I watched a lot when I was getting into the game in the description below, or someone if you're interested in getting watching. But yeah, play the app, play locally, play online, or play mentally. Whatever you need to do, just play. That's gonna be your best way of learning. And finally, I want to just say this was a lot. I mean, we're approaching an hour here soon. If you are new to the game, the information we talked about, overwhelming. I absolutely get that. I was new to the game once as well. So, my suggestion, maybe rewatch the video. You don't have to. Find another person. Maybe another person can describe it better. I'm not here for the views. I'm here to help people learn more about this game that I love. And my suggestion, go out, try the app. Okay? I hope you guys had a wonderful time. I hope you guys enjoyed what we talked about. If you got another TCG you want me to talk about, or anything else you want me to talk about, feel free to let me know in the description or the comments or whatever. I'm Master Walrus over here at Sloppy World, and as always, my friends, stay sloppy.